Hello, Chris Godinez, licensed professional counselor, also the host of We Need to Talk on every Sunday at noon, and then I post this stuff up when I have the energy and the time. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. The views and opinions stated herein are mine and mine alone. They do not represent the ACA, the APA, or any other therapist for that matter. Boom, shakalaka, done. I'd like to thank my sponsor, BetterHelp, BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez. They're an online therapy company. They are international. They have 40,000 therapists working for them. So just go to betterhelp.com/Chris Godinez, fill out a questionnaire, and they will place you with a licensed, there goes my laundry, a licensed professional counselor, either PhD level or master's level in your state, or if they do international, they can do international. So there you go. betterhelp.com/Chris Godinez. Okay. Today's current event. I was just reading about this on the AP. So Oregon back in the day, hi bunnies. Oregon back in the day, a few years ago, legalized damn near every single psychotropic drug you could possibly think of and more. So they legalized like heroin, marijuana, psilocybin, which is the mushrooms, other drugs. Anyway, they legalized everything. But what they did not do is they did not put into place a plan to deal with the addicts. And they didn't put in place a plan, a social plan to deal with homeless people that would be attracted to coming to Oregon so that they could do drugs legally. Did they think of any of this? No, of course not, because politicians are, for the most part, stupid. Don't get me started. I'm going to start dropping F-bombs here pretty soon. So now the pendulum has swung in the opposite direction. And I understand why, because Portland has now become pretty much a cesspool, which is not good. So the last time I was in Portland, it was dirty. It was dangerous. John and I both got accosted by homeless people on the street. This one guy chased me and Moana into a restaurant because he was, I don't know what his intention was, but he was having a full-blown conversation with God and Satan at the same time. So anyway, they did not plan for being inundated by the homeless population, which they should have, because a lot of the homeless population, not all, but a lot of the homeless population are mentally ill, and they try to be their own doctor and they try to medicate themselves, and it never works. So they didn't plan for it. They didn't have the resources. They didn't put aside money for homeless shelters or drug rehabilitation or any of that. So now the voters have swung the opposite way because they're pissed off, quite frankly, about what's happening. And so now they're trying to make psilocybin illegal. I have a problem with that. So I do think it's a good idea to make it illegal to grow your own, okay? Because I'm not a doctor. I don't know what the dosage is. I would rather have somebody who is educated in dosage and do the microdosing and things like that. So the clinics are supposedly safe right now, but I can guarantee you the pharmaceutical companies are going to be trying to get rid of that. So psilocybin, which is the magic mushrooms, in microdosing, not, going on these massive, trips kind of thing, but microdosing has been shown to help with drug-resistant depression. So just like LSD, in microdosing, not in like, let's go on a massive trip. So it's annoying to me that they're throwing the baby out with the bathwater instead of dealing with, how do I explain this? Instead of dealing with, why is this coming up? Stop it. There we go. Instead of dealing with problems that come along with it, it's like there's no, this is why I hate politics, but I'm going to get a little bit into it. There's no common sense. If common sense is not common, guys, let's be clear about that, because I'll tell you what, there's a whole bunch of idiots walking around that do not have common sense. So they don't think ahead. They don't go if A, then B, critical thinking, logic and critical thinking. And so what they didn't take into consideration is homeless people being attracted to the state because of the legalization of all the drugs, okay? Because homeless people don't think. They don't think about the weather. They don't think about the social services. They don't, if they're a drug addict and they're mentally ill and they're looking for easy drugs, That's all they're going to think is, oh, I got to get to Oregon, or I got to get to Colorado, or I got to get to whatever state has legalized it. So they didn't plan for it. So they had a huge boom in the homeless population. They had a huge boom in um, drug addicts needing resources for the rehabilitation and unfortunately jail in some cases. So they didn't plan for it. So now they've swung in the opposite direction. They just want to get rid of all of it. And I'm like, can we please, for the love of God, whichever God you follow, I don't care, as long as it's on the side of good and light, I don't care. For the love of God, can we use some common sense? Can we plan for things? Can we go, if A, then B? If we're going to do this, then let's do this. And that's what they didn't do. And so the population, being pissed off, which I don't blame them, has decided to try to make it illegal for everything. So there are communities that have made it illegal in their county or their town or whatever. So I think that's a problem. And here's why I think it's a problem. Not all pharmaceuticals are going to work on depression. There are people that it just doesn't work on. I've had several clients that went with ketamine treatments and had fantastic results. Like seriously, like life altering. Oh my God, you're a new person. You're who you should have always been, kind of thing. Doesn't happen for everybody, but if you've got drug resistant depression, you need to have an alternative. So one of the alternatives is ketamine. Absolutely. I'm 100% for it. If everything else is not working and you've literally tried everything and its cousin, then yeah, go do alternative. Then the other thing is psilocybin. Psilocybin has also been shown to work with pharmaceutical resistant depression. So has LSD. Why? I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV. So, I don't know why or how, but it somehow rewires the brain and it helps. So I am all for alternative forms of medicine. And of course, pharmaceutical companies are going to jump on this and they're going to be like, see, it's dangerous and we need to regulate it and blah, 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 blah. I do think there should be the clinics. Now they have clinics where you go and you do the dosing and you stay there and are observed until you are safe to go home. And that I think is smart, and they do the same thing with ketamine. So it just, anyway, that is what's going on. If you have drug resistant depression, I strongly encourage you to, and you're in Oregon, I strongly encourage you to get a hold of your representatives and bend their ear on this, because like I said, there needs to be alternatives to traditional Western medicine because not all traditional Western medicine works for all people. So it's just like, how do I explain? There are some people that cannot tolerate the ADHD meds too. And so they try to find, Eastern medicine to help with that. And so I'm all for it. Anyway, that's the current event. I'm just, stop throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Instead, let's use some common sense and have, how do I explain this? I wish, you know what I wish? I wish there was like a committee. Of course, then if you get more than two people in a room, you're going to have massive disagreements. But I wish there was like a committee of like healthcare providers, for example, counselors or, psychiatrists or whatever that can like consult with the politicians and be like, look, if you do this, this is going to happen, So anyway, that's it. That's the news. And whatever state you're in, and if they have legalized psilocybin, please tell them it needs to stay legal because it does help. So there that is. All right. Today, laundry is stuck. Don't know what it's doing. Anyway, today's topic is giving to yourself. So I want to talk more about giving to yourself. So many of us have such a hard time not just allowing compliments in, but just stopping and being quiet or being still or giving ourselves that little mental vacation, that little mental break. So why is that? Well, guys, I hate to break it to you. This is a trauma response. Busy, unable to give to yourself, unable to do nice things for yourself, unable to, how do I explain this? What I see a lot of clients doing is somebody will give them a gift, right? Or somebody will give them something and they'll immediately give it away. Even though they wanted it, even though they loved it and they thought it was great and they could use it, they were like, "Oh no, but I know this person who needs it more than I do." Which is a lovely sentiment. It is, but that is a trauma response. That is a trauma response. Not being able to accept compliments is a trauma response. Not being able to accept gifts is a trauma response. Not being able to accept love is a trauma response. Not being able to accept genuine affection, and I talked about this in one of my midweek things, getting a panic attack when genuine affection is going on is a trauma response. I know. It's kind of like, oh, crap. Really? Again? What is it with this trauma response stuff? So we develop these maladaptive ways of dealing with our abuse. So when we have been abused by a narcissist, whether it is a family of origin, and usually it's the family of origin that really gets us. If it's a narcissistic family of origin and they've gotten us from a young age and they've made it clear it wasn't okay for us to have nice things, or it wasn't okay for us to do nice things for ourselves, or it wasn't okay for us to whatever, fill in the blank, that really gets us. And that becomes a trauma response because we know what's going to happen if they find out we did something nice for ourselves. So listen to me now. Believe me now. Don't wait. Just do it. I want you to get CPTSD from Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker. I am not just whistling a tune. This book is going to help you. So one of our trauma responses is not being able to accept anything, not help, not love, not things, not good stuff, not time alone. It's we need to be busy. We need to be distracted. We need to be, those are all trauma responses, guys. So since we are in the season of giving now, Thanksgiving, which I'm looking forward to. I think Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday because I love to cook. So it's like mashed potatoes and turkey and ooh, yeah. Anyway, the point being is we're in the season of giving and codependency. Okay, here's the other book I want you to get. Facing Codependency by Pia Mellody or The Disease to Please by Harriet Breaker. So these are all knitted together. Trauma, codependency, not being able to accept love or help or kindness or compliments or anything. They're all part of the same PTSD issue. It's all part of the complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So when we are raised with an abuser that is harsh, critical, mean, awful, terrible, right? And we do something nice for ourselves. Like, okay, I will give you a great example. You guys all know that my dad was an asshat. You know that because I've talked about it. I've written about it. I've done books about it. In fact, where is my book on it? Dun, 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 shameless plug. What's wrong? Whoops. What's wrong with your dad? Available on Amazon. Anyway, it's about my dad and my mom, actually. But so when you're raised by somebody who is abusive, they do not want you to have time for yourself. Now, is this they wake up in the morning and think about this kind of thing? No, I think it's like they've learned that if they can keep their target of abuse busy, afraid, distracted, go, dissociating the whole thing, they're easier to control. So I think that's kind of like not a conscious thing so much. It's like a subconscious thing. They know it. They figured it out. They know how to manipulate their target of abuse to make them more malleable, to make them more bendable, so that they can bend them to their will. So what my dad would do is we would be supposedly camping on vacation, right? So we'd be up in the mountains and we'd be supposedly relaxing. Well, he would get up at freaking 5 o'clock in the morning, like ass crack of dawn, right? And he'd start the chainsaw and he'd start chopping stuff up. And I'm just like, I'm surprised the other people in this meadow are not coming over here and just, beating you over the head. Seriously. So he would start the chainsaw and then he would insist that we go out and pick up sticks. And I'm just like, are we supposed to be on vacation? Because this doesn't feel like a vacation. He would do that at home. He would do that when we went on vacation. If we went someplace where he couldn't start a chainsaw, he would, again, remember, abusers love to deprive people of sleep. He would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, start banging around, making coffee, doing no, that whole thing. So they teach us very quickly that it's not okay to get sleep, that it's not okay to rest, that you can't just sit and read a book, which is interesting because so many of my clients, when I'm talking to them and I say, okay, are you doing the homework? Are you reading the books? Are you, taking care of yourself? Are you doing that? No. Okay, what is going on? Well, I need to do this and I need to do that and I just don't have time. Nope. Sorry. Wrong response. Let's talk about time. There is a finite amount of time. There are only 24 hours in a day. You, above all other people, are worthy of your own love, your own time, and your own attention. You must make time for yourself. And so often what I hear is, oh no, I don't have time. I've got to take care of this person. I got to take care of that person. I got to do this. I got to do that. You cannot pour from an empty pot, guys. If your coffee pot is empty, you're not going to be able to pour into anybody else's cup. Y'all got to fill your own pot back up. That is part of self-care. And this part of self-care has been ripped away from us by our abuser. Yeah, I know. It's kind of like mind-blowing. So they did it on purpose. They did it on purpose. And when I was a kid, my mom never could sit still. Never. We'd have a family gathering and she was up and running and going around and doing this. And she never, ever sat down and ate or sat down and took care of herself. And she did that even without having people over and things like that. It wasn't until years later when I started studying all of this that I went, oh, crap, that's her trauma response. Holy schmolies. So trauma response is what we do that we're expected to do by our abuser. So let me give you another example. I had a family member who shall remain anonymous, that anytime I brought home takeout, right? Because, I used to go to the office and I used to have to eat lunch somewhere. So I'd bring home whatever leftovers, would have an absolute fit. She would have an absolute fit. She would come unhinged. How dare you? Why didn't you bring me some? That kind of attitude. And, it was like, oh, she's trying to shame me into not taking care of myself. Well, how about you go pound sand, lady? So that person was no longer allowed at our house. So what I'm trying to say is that narcissists do not want you to take care of yourself. And narcissists are operating on the emotional level of a 2-year-old. Now, I've also recently seen these classes supposedly being offered through the NBCC and other groups that are saying, oh, you can work with narcissists. You can help change them. They may change for a very, very short amount of time as long as there are eyes on them. And as soon as the eyes are off of them, they will go right back. Get away from them. That is the best thing you can do. So back to the trauma response. So abusers are all about competition. Oh, I forgot to turn off the sound. Ooh, where's the sound? There it is. Abusers are all about competition. And they are like, how do I explain this? They're like, how dare you have something that I don't have? Okay. How dare you've done something for yourself that you're not doing for me? So we learn very quickly that if we get something, we have to give it to them. Or if we get something, we have to hide it from them. Or if we do something nice for ourselves, they can never find out about it because they'll punish us. And that's what they do. So we've learned very quickly that giving to ourselves is a bad thing. Now, I want you to sit and think about this for a second. When you tell me you don't have time to read the books, that's a trauma response. I want you to think about that. Who taught you that you did not deserve to sit and read the books or listen to the books? Who taught you that it wasn't okay for you to learn about yourself? Now, the last thing abusers want is for us to learn about ourselves. They absolutely do not want us to get aware of ourselves, aware of our emotions, and understanding who the heck they are. Okay. So they try to stop that. They try to interfere That's why abusers interfere with therapy. When I was going to therapy when I was a teenager, my dad interfered. He found out I was going and he put a stop to it because he did not want me telling the therapist what he was doing. So, and that's the next year I left. So, do you see where I'm going with that? They do not want you knowing who you are. They don't. They don't want you to know who you are. They don't want you to have the time to reflect. And there is a great saying, Buddhist saying, it's like, if you don't have time to do 5 minutes meditation, do an hour. Seriously, because that's pointing out to you, wow, this is where I'm not taking care of myself. This is where I'm not doing self-care. This is a part of self-care. Giving to yourself is a part of self-esteem. The Self-Esteem Workbook by Glenn Schiraldi. And I'm not just whistling a tune, guys. Go get the books. Go listen to them. A lot of them are on Audible. So get them on Audible. I will warn you about the CPTSD one. The guy who does the narration for that one is like fingernails on a blackboard. But it still gives you the information. And sometimes what I find is helpful is if you have the book in front of you and you're listening to it and it kind of double teams it and gets it into your brain. So I want you to do that. So we don't take care of ourselves. And that is a part of self-esteem. And that's what they've been trying to rip away from us. So they're perfectly fine with us dissociating because we're not present. So working on the dissociation is going to be huge. I cannot emphasize this enough. Get with a good, and I mean good, trauma therapist who knows their a-hole from a hole in the ground, understands narcissistic abuse, and is able to help you come back into the present when you dissociate. You need to be in the here and the now, not in your head, not in the past, not in the future, in the here and the now. Because if you're in the here and the now, you're powerful. If you're out of your body, you're vulnerable to attack by narcissists. You are. So let's talk a little bit about giving and why that feels so weird. So if we've gotten that message, it's not okay, not okay, not okay. I'm going to punish you. You should be ashamed for doing something nice for yourself. When we do things nice for ourselves, like take a half an hour a day to work on the self-esteem workbook, it feels like we're being selfish. You are not being selfish. Let's be clear about the definition of selfish versus narcissistic, okay? And or unselfish, okay, or self-care. So selfish and narcissistic, okay, is you're hurting somebody to get your own needs met. That's selfish. When you're hurting someone to get your own needs met, that's selfish and that's narcissistic. Self-esteem is just you cutting out half an hour a day to work on your self-esteem. You're not hurting anybody. And if somebody tells you that you're hurting them by taking a half an hour out of your day to work on yourself, you want to rethink that relationship. Seriously. I leave it to you. It is up to you, but I'm telling you right now, that is a red flag. If somebody doesn't want you working on yourself, that is a red flag. Massive red flag. So when we are taking care of ourselves, it feels weird. It does. It feels like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this because we've been trained. This is a learned behavior. So if it's been learned, we can unlearn it and replace it with healthy behavior. Now, you're not going to suddenly be able to go out and like do everything for yourself. You're not. You're going to do it in baby steps. And I would strongly suggest that the baby steps that you take are a half an hour a day working on the self-esteem workbook, or a half an hour a day reading or listening to CPTSD from Surviving to Thriving, or a half an hour a day reading Facing Codependency or The Disease to Please, either one of those books. Just start with a half an hour, but then expand it. Next week, take it up to 45 minutes, maybe an hour the week after. So you do that. And you're going to be working on mirror work like nobody's business. So selfish is hurting other people to get your needs met. Self-esteem is just working on you and improving you and helping you, which also means you get to help other people. So how is that selfish? But a narcissist will tell you that you're being selfish. Guarantee it. So I'm sorry, I have a cold. So if I sound funky, that's why. So, all right, accepting compliments. This is something I still want you to work on. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I want you to do a love letter to yourself. I'm not kidding. I want you to write a love letter to yourself. And every time I say that to people, they're always like, ew, oh my God, no, what the heck? No, I want you to write a love letter to yourself. And I want you to put down everything that is awesome about you. And I want you to read it out loud. And then I want you to put it on the mirror if it's safe, if you're not with a narcissist. Put it on the mirror. And I want you to go through it every damn morning. I'm not kidding you. That's what I want you to do. Because you've got to get used to giving to yourself. You cannot pour from an empty cup. If you've got kids, if you've got friends, family, you need to fill yourself up. Nobody else is going to fill you up, guys. There is not a single person out there that can fill you. You must be able to fill yourself. Now, it's lovely to get compliments from the outside. That's great. That's like icing on a cake. Okay. But that's not what's the main course. The main course is that lovely ribeye. Yeah, baby, with some mashed potatoes. Apparently, I'm jonesing for mashed potatoes this week. Anyway, that lovely ribeye, mashed potatoes, that's the self-esteem. That's you giving to you. That is you filling you up. Does that make sense? You cannot depend on other people to do that work. That is your work. That is not their work. That is your work. Now, why do we do that? Why do we depend on other people to fill us up and allow us to feel good about that? That's because that's what narcissists do. So narcissists do other esteem. Okay. Other esteem is outside of them. Okay. They never believe their own press. They don't. They'll sit there and say, oh, I'm great. I'm great. I'm great. Look how great I am. I'm great. I'm great. I'm great. But they want other people to tell them that they are great. And so we learn that. That's a learned behavior. So we learn very quickly not to trust ourselves, but to listen to outside approval. No, 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 no. You come into this world with you, you live with you the whole time, and you go out of this world with you. I want you to start listening to you. Seriously. Okay? Narcissists don't do that. They need other approval, other approval, other approval. The most indestructible and ineffable with people are the ones who have got good self-esteem. In other words, they know their own worth. They know their own value. Self-esteem workbook, Lynn Schiraldi. They know that they are worthy of their own time, their own love, and their own attention. And they are their own cheerleader. So seriously, when stuff goes south, oh my God, you've got to be able to go, you know what? I know who I am. That other person's a jackass. I am not going to listen to them. I am a good person. Let it go. Seriously, without having to get approval. There are going to be jackasses everywhere. You cannot believe every single jackass. And you've got to know who you are, because there are plenty of narcissists out there that want to tear you down because they don't like people that know who they are. So the more you're attacked by narcissists, the more you know you're on the right path, basically. So having that self-esteem, having that little voice just going, hey, you're doing okay. You're a good person. Keep going. Good job. I love you. Have a great day. Talk to you tonight, whatever. That's what you want. That little cheerleader, not the critic, not the mean, me, not the one that's like, oh, why did you do that? Why'd you say that? No, that one needs to go pound sand. You need to strengthen that muscle of, hey, you're a good person. Hey, I love you. Hey, you know what? That person, doesn't matter what they say. They're not important to you. Do you see where I'm going with that? So the next thing you need to work on is, I really, really, really want you to journal. How do you not take care of yourself? Where are the trauma responses in this particular area? Because this is a very, this is just a section of the trauma responses, is not being able to give to ourselves. Do you allow yourself to just sit and not be busy and not be thinking, living in the past, living in the future, worrying, anxious? Are you able to just sit and enjoy? And that is huge. That is something to strive for, to just be in the present moment. Now, if you are with an abuser, that is hard to do. I'm not going to lie to you. This is much easier to do after you've left the abuser, okay? But if you are with an abuser, you're going to have to start working on being in the present moment, because that's when you are the safest. That's when you recognize gaslighting. That's when you recognize lying. That's when you recognize cheating. That's when you recognize rewriting history. That's when you recognize patterns. et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this is why self-care is something that narcissists hate their target of abuse to do. So if you really want to give them the middle finger, work on you. Give yourself time. Give yourself space. Give yourself a love letter. Give yourself working on the self-esteem workbook by Glenn Schiraldi, CPTSD from Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker, The Disease to Please, Harriet Breaker, Facing Codependency by Pia Melody, any and all of those books. Make time for yourself and make time to do nice things for you. If somebody gives you a gift, I don't want you to give it away unless you really don't need it. Like, unless you really, really, really don't need it. So if somebody gives you a gift and it's something you really wanted, please keep it. Please use it for you. Please don't allow the abuser to shame you in your head for keeping a gift that somebody gave, because gift giving is a love language. Gift giving is a way of saying, I love you. And compliments, words of affirmation, is a love language. So when somebody gives you a compliment, they are literally saying, I love you. Seriously, I'm not kidding you. So you think about the love languages. You think about, there is gift giving, giving gifts. That's a love language. There is words of affirmation, which is, you're doing great. I love you. You're fantastic. That kind of thing. There is physical touch, quality time. Crap. I always forget the fifth one. What the hell is it? Ooh, I'll think of it at 2:00 this morning. But the point I'm trying to make is, and if one of you can remember it, please post it. The point I'm trying to make is that how we treat each other is our love language. Okay. So when somebody gives you a gift, either verbal or an actual gift, they're saying, I love you. That's a way of saying I love you. So what we often do is we either give the gift away because, we've been trained that we can't keep it. But if the abuser is gone, if they're not, acts of service. Oh my God, thank you. Acts of service. So mowing the lawn, doing the dishes, that's a way of showing they love you. John does the dishes. Thank you. Oh my God. Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. So that's a way of showing that they love you. And so recognizing that and not rejecting it, because when you reject the gift, you're kind of rejecting that person, even though that's not your intent, but that's how they take it, because that is a gift. So when somebody does something like acts of service, gift giving, words of affirmation, physical touch, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, quality time, that's a way of showing that they love you. Now, abusers don't do that because they're me, I, more my genitals, basically. So you have to start practicing, and it's going to be uncomfortable. I'm telling you right here, right now. Been there, done that. Was not comfortable. Took me a few years to get the hang of it. But you got to start allowing yourself to accept those little love notes is what they are. So if somebody gives you a gift, you just say, wow, thank you, and then keep it. Please don't give it away unless you really, really, really don't want it. Sometimes I have gotten gifts that I have regifted because I was like, I've got 10 of these. Okay. But I'm like, wow, thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. Because I do, because then I can pass it on to somebody else if I have 10 of them. So do you see where I'm going? There's a difference. It's like what I see a lot in my clients is somebody gives them something that they really want, and they just feel so guilty that they're like, no, I'm going to give it away. And it's like, no, you need to keep it. So do you see where I'm going? It's the intent. If it's shame that's driving you, don't do it. If it's guilt that's driving you, don't do it. It's like, if you can use it, keep it. But if it's shame or guilt driving you to give it away, no, keep it. Write about it. Journal it. Where is this coming from? Who taught you this? Who told you it wasn't okay to have nice things? Who told you it wasn't okay to be nice to yourself? Who told you it wasn't okay to like yourself? Who told you it wasn't okay to have takeout? Who told you it wasn't okay to have something they didn't have? And abusers are weird, guys. And I will shut up really soon and start answering questions. Abusers are really weird. So if you're dealing with an overt narcissist, one that's grandiose, one that's like, bully, the whole thing, they're the ones that want everything you have. So it's like, if you bought yourself something nice, you'll walk in the door and they'll be like, well, must be nice. No. How come you didn't get me one of those? Seriously? That's what they do. The covert ones, remember, play the victim. So if you do something nice for them, they come unglued. I don't want that. Da, 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 you know, because they want to be the victim, and they can't be the victim if you've done something nice for them. So their thinking is very skewed. So you're going to get you'll figure out which one is covert and which one is overt. So they do these different things. Anyway, all right. So to recap, this is the time of giving. Yes, you can give to other people. I'm not saying don't give to other people, but I'm saying place yourself at the front of the stove. Don't put yourself on the back burner and forget about yourself. Don't place yourself on the sale aisle down in the basement. Please put yourself on the main floor, because you, above all other people, deserve your own love, your own time, and your own attention. That does not mean that you cannot give to other people, but it means you must also give to yourself. Either the gift of quiet, just, locking the door, taking a bubble bath, grabbing a book, going out on the back porch, reading if it's nice enough weather, or the gift of working on yourself, reading the books, or the gift of journaling. That's a gift, because you get to reflect. You get to go, ooh, so this happened, and now I'm doing this, and oh my gosh, I see the connection. Do you see where I'm going with that? So give yourself the gift of you. Give yourself the gift of you. Give yourself the gift of you, and thank your body for taking you through this amazing trip. Seriously, gratitude is going to be huge. It's hard to do when we're in a bad place, but you got to find the silver lining. And part of the silver lining is you're still here. Thank God. And you're able to work on yourself. Give yourself that time. Work on you so that you can turn around and help other people. You can't just keep pouring from a pot and not refill it. You've got to fill it back up. So fill it back up with acts of service for yourself, with kindness for yourself, compliments for yourself. So work on that. Now, I did want to last week on how to accept compliments. Go back and review that. You just simply say thank you, no matter how uncomfortable it is. And you don't have to compliment them back. That's something that we often do. Or when someone gives us a gift, we often go, oh my God, I have to give them. No, you don't. Just accept it. Okay. Just enjoy it. If they have, a wish list and you can fulfill something on that, okay, great. But don't make yourself go into debt thinking that you have to give and give and give and give and give and give and give. That is a codependency trait. That is a trauma response. So, because we want to be liked, and we think that if we're liked, we're going to be safe. So that's what I want you guys to think about. So basically, give to yourself. Please, please, please give to yourself this season and from here on out. Write yourself a love letter. Do some journaling. Sit and meditate. Just start small. Literally 5 minutes a day, meditation. Doesn't have to be a big twisting yourself into a pretzel. It can be just sitting there and breathing. Breathe. Just breathe for 5 minutes. Allow yourself that rest. And that's the other thing. Make sure you're getting plenty of rest and drinking plenty of water. That is all self-care. All right, let me answer the questions. I hope my voice holds out. Hold, please, while I answer questions. Okay, is the narc's brain different than a normal brain? I read they miss structures, pathways responsible for empathy, yes, self-awareness, reasoning, impulses, etc. Yes, abso-freaking-lutely. So you are dealing with somebody who is literally on the level of a 2-year-old, but an unempathic 2-year-old. 2-year-olds are empathic. They are. When I was teenager, must have been a teenager, and I was babysitting my nephew Brandon, we were watching a Tarzan movie, and one of the animals got hurt in the movie, and it was sad, and he started crying, and he was little. I mean, he was like 2, and so I was like, oh, baby, he's going to be okay. It's just acting. It's not real. Monkey's going to be okay. Okay. So yeah, they are very empathic. Kids definitely have empathy. Narcissists do not have empathy. They are unable to put themselves into somebody else's shoes. They can't understand selflessness. It angers them because they can't feel it. They do not process emotions the way we do. They don't. They do not understand kindness. They feel that kindness is a weakness. when in fact, you have to be incredibly strong to be kind, especially to some of these jackasses out there. I'm telling you what. So you got to be kind. You got to be empathic to be a normal human being. They're not kind. They are not empathic. They cannot put themselves into somebody else's shoes. They don't like things that they cannot feel themselves. It angers them because they don't have it. It's not that they're worried that they don't have it. It's that, again, that competition. How dare you have something I don't have? And oftentimes, when they get together with somebody romantically, they seek out the emotions, the feelings, the person that's very emotional, very, very empathic, very kind, because they think that if they're with them, they'll somehow be able to steal that and become them and get it by osmosis. And when that doesn't happen, that's when the devalue and the discard happens. They're pissed. They're pissed at us for loving, for being kind, for loving them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They hate us for all the things that they originally got us into the relationship for, because they can't have them. And it makes them angry like nobody's business. Codependent No More is still a very good book. Yes. Codependent No More by Melanie Beattie. That's another one. And Beyond Codependent No More, also by Melanie Beattie. That's the updated one. So those books are also really, really good. So, there's so many books out there on codependency. Whatever speaks to you, go get it. As long as it's written by somebody who knows their a-hole from a hole in the ground. That's all I care about. That's really my main concern. So, okay, guys, I am rapidly losing my voice. So I'm going to call it good for today. Any questions I did not get to, I will answer during the week. Next week, this is going to be an important one. And please share this with the people you know that might be thinking about divorce. We're going to talk about the difference between fault divorce and no fault divorce, and why it is vital that if you're even thinking about divorcing an abuser, you should do it sooner rather than later. So we're going to talk about fault versus no fault divorce. Yeah, I'm done. All right, guys, you go have a great Thanksgiving. I'll answer whatever questions I didn't get to this week. And yeah, drink water. Please take care of yourselves. Please, please, please take care of yourself. And if you guys have any questions, you can always, put them in the chat below when I post this up, or this gets posted up, or you can go to Facebook and you can IM me on what we need to talk, and ask questions there, and I can do them on a video. So there's that. All right, you guys, take good care of yourselves, and I will talk to you next Sunday about fault divorce, no fault divorce. All right, talk to you later. Bye.